Good day, everyone. So, taking a small little break from our regularly scheduled program to just give like a nice little update since it's the end of the month. I decided I wanted to uh, just kind of go over how the month has been. I've already had some episodes pre-recorded, like I've been talking about, just trying to get ahead. So that way, when I take off some time from work in April, uh, and not doing my regular commute, I can still have episodes coming out and just focus on other things that I kind of want to focus on, taking some time off to myself. Uh, but just felt like giving a quick update on the month as far as just the show. Also, talked about possibly doing a like update on my horror movie a day challenge for this leap year. And gotta say, in these next few episodes that have been pre-recorded, that I said that I would try and get Patreon working, up and running to get everything kind of situated on that. I did get it up and running. Start putting the link into the show notes for the podcast. I also got my podcast not just on Spotify. I'm also on Google Podcasts, which will be apparently shutting down at some point this year. And so Google suggested that I could still put it on there until they get shut down. But then after they get shut down, they're going to migrate everything to YouTube. So I signed up to where the podcast is on YouTube now as well, underneath the channel Austin Guy Productions, which has been my YouTube channel for all my Austin Guy stuff from way back when, almost, Jesus Christ, about maybe 8 years ago, when I was hoping on doing things with trying to get a YouTube career and stuff in filmmaking going. And sadly, never really took off just because a whole bunch of logistical stuff uh, kind of prevented that. And I'm also on iHeartRadio podcast. There are other options through the Spotify for Podcasters app that it gives me. I'm not familiar with a lot of them, so I'm not familiar with how much traffic they get. So I'm just not going to bother with them. Apple Podcast is also on there, but last time I dealt with Apple Podcast with my previous initial podcast, they were very, very open to having the podcast on there. But then after a month, when they were like, "Yeah, you're not generating, I guess, like a minimal number of traffic that we require for our podcast to have every month," so we're just going to take you off kind of thing until you reach that certain level of listenership, and then you can reapply and put your podcast back up. So I don't know if they still have that kind of policy. So I just decided I just won't bother with Apple Podcasts right now. If I do get any listener viewership increase, then maybe. We'll see, just because I know a lot of people like to use Apple Podcasts, but I'm on the main ones: the Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and of course Spotify. And I'm also on YouTube now. So if you search up the YouTube one, you'll find the videos of it. It's just the logo. I did look into what the videos look like. It's just the logo, and of course the audio that you're going to get right now. And someone else had mentioned buy me a coffee to sign up for anyone wanting to make like small little donations. I may sign up for that as well. If you don't want to sign up for Patreon or donate through Patreon, you can just, I'll look into how buy me a coffee works. And if I go through with that, I'll start posting that in the show notes as well. Otherwise, everything's been going really good, surprising for the episode, for the show. Uh, got a few viewers that seem to be more than just a singular person. Just looking at the metrics now that I have access to metrics that are a little more in depth than what the Spotify for Podcasters app gives me. Um, yeah, it just seems like people are just finding me randomly, and I'm getting a lot of people on the web browser instead of like the mobile app. So thank you all for giving me a listen. I believe I've had like 8 listens so far across all episodes, which is still like not too bad. I think before it was like one listener per episode, and I don't even think it was the same listener. And now it seems to be getting a little more. From what I was able to last check, I haven't checked it up on it recently to where I could just kind of get a little more in depth. But still appreciate anyone that decides to click and give me a chance and just listen to my incoherent rambling sometimes. Although, like the next few episodes will be a little more structure heavy, a little more structured. I'm not gonna say structure heavy, structured. Um, I do have a few kind of updates I may want to do after listening to the audio and listening to how I can and seeing how I can kind of make things sound a bit better through the app. May invest in a different pair of wireless headphones. Luckily, through my job, I can get like AirPods uh, financed. Um, so I'm trying to look in to see how the audio quality is on those compared to these. And then also possibly looking into just maybe getting a lavalier mic. But I do like the wireless headset part just because it kind of uh, cuts down a little bit on background noise. So when you hear my car noises, just the road noises, turn signal, engine noises, AC going, they kind of cut down a little bit on that. At least on these headsets, they do tend to capture a lot more room noises. So that's why I was also kind of looking into AirPods as well. I know a lavalier may kind of catch everything as well, depending upon the lav mic. I also trying to clip it on my seatbelt. I don't know if you'll get a lot of ruffles on it as I move, because I am very animated still, even when I drive. So we'll look into that. May hear some like quality changes, hopefully for the better. If not, I'm still really okay with how this sounds, especially once the audio gets a little more enhanced through the enhancement feature on the Spotify app. So, just things to look forward to, things that are kind of going on that may change, not within the next month, but maybe within the next few months. And again, like if you do decide to donate through Patreon, um, that's probably not where that money is gonna go to as far as adding production value. If anything, it's just probably gonna, like I said, help out mainly gas and maybe like energy drink snacks for when I actually do go to work. Because I'm not really expecting to get a whole lot, so I'm not gonna put you know I'm not gonna try to allocate a lot of the money going towards stuff for the show. I already have a bunch of equipment for podcasting because, like I said, I did it prior. But it's mostly for stationary podcasts, and currently I am without a laptop. I'm not gonna say computer. I do have a computer. It's just very big and clunky. I can't put it in the car with me. It needs a constant feed of energy. Uh, so I need a new laptop before I could actually use my setup because that would require me plugging it in, opening up Audition, making sure the mics are right, finding a way to make sure I can mount the mics to where they're not in the way of when I drive and still get good sound. A whole lot of working parts to that. So um, maybe one day I'll do some stationary episodes. I have had ideas about reaching out to people and just having them be guests. Not big names, honestly, just like friends. Um, and just kind of giving, like a little bit of a variety on content and what you'll be listening to and what I will be covering. So that may happen too in the next few months. It's just usually with that, it's a scheduling thing. And that's kind of what I don't miss about podcasting is it is very work intensive, even if you're just trying to be like a small podcast or you're trying to just start from like humble roots. And it's even just doing this by myself right now is like the best situation that I like, just because I'm reliant solely on me. I know I have the time and I utilize that time as best I can for the show. Whereas when you have other people, especially if we're not like a company, that we can just say this is for the company and we can allocate time for it just because of the company venture. Since we're all just random people doing this on our own time in our own dime, it's very hard to line up on people's schedules and making sure that you can have like a consistent crew, especially when there's no money being generated from the show and for the show. Uh, it was always a bit of an issue because we did have a dedicated crew now since it's been almost like probably 7 years after that fact when I stopped podcasting. Everyone's gone and doing their own things, got their own lives, got their own schedules, their hobbies. And so now it's just everyone likes the idea of continuing, and everyone also just can't easily make the time for it. And we also don't have a dedicated space too. So just everyone's individual workings. There's a lot of variables just easily put. But I'll still look into it and see if I could probably get maybe at least make it like a two-person podcast for like an episode or two, just kind of get people on and mixing things up. But I'm still trying to get with a buddy of mine on helping him out with his podcast. Oh, there's a line order to everything, and once we get that up and going, and we get everything else kind of fixing or getting in working order, that would be a lot easier afterwards. So that way we're not stretching ourselves thin. But who knows? We'll just see what the year holds for us at this point. But what the year is definitely holding and being consistent on is my leap year challenge for 366 days of horror. That has been the hashtag I've been using. The last leap year challenge I did was 366 days of movies. Um, Trying to keep it short. I didn't want to do horror movies. I think I tried it once and I was like, that seems too long. I'd rather just do 366 days of horror. So if you want to just look into that hashtag, I'm not sure if a lot of other people are doing it as well, but you can definitely look under that hashtag and you'll more than likely find me on it. When I was doing the 366 days of movies, I think I was the main contributor to that hashtag for the whole year of 2020, and probably maybe five other people were contributing. I don't know. There was one other guy I was kind of following. He did all the way up till May. He kept posting a list of all the movies he was watching. Um, Not like day by day, but kind of an end of the month thing. And then he kind of stopped around May and June. I don't know if you followed through with it. I do my best when I try to do these challenges. The main goal of the challenge is to finish. I know I may have some days where the post is like a day. One day we'll have two posts just because I try to make the post on the day. But of course, as I'm watching the movie, depending upon how work goes, depending upon how life goes, uh, sometimes I just forget and I make the post about it after midnight. But I'm still uh, trying to keep everything in line, and that was an issue last time I did this, and it was just life gets in the way. But I have been consistent on watching a movie a day, and some of the movies I have given a watch this month have actually been pretty solid movies. Um, this It's usually easier to start on a list of like I want to catch up on things, or I want to give this a shot, or I've had this on my mind for a few years, and now this is a reason for me to watch it and make time for it. Just because that's a good way to kind of get the challenge jump started and going and getting the motivation high. Uh, After that, it's usually just like, okay, well, now let me just hit the streaming services and just see what's available or just see what's not available. See what movies pop into my head where I'm like, I'd love to watch that, and see where I can find it. One thing I did learn about doing this last time was always just making sure I can get the movies. So if I couldn't stream it, um, if I had the money, I would go. I would either hunt for it, go like a resale shop that sold, you know, movies that they bought and they're reselling, and try to find the movie there. Just because those are usually cheap, depending. Like this is before 4K became real big, and I did it last time. So finding the Blu-ray sometimes would be anywhere between like $4 to $10 for the movie if I could find it. Otherwise, I would Amazon it, and Amazon sometimes you're looking at about same price, like 5 to I don't know, maybe even like almost the full price of the movie as if it were came out recently. But I did get some movies from that last challenge just because again I had to buy them so they help grow my collection. And so taking that into account for this year, this challenge, I've already started looking up certain movies just to make sure that they are streaming, they can be found, or that they are streamable because they are licensed out to whoever. Uh, Hopefully, they'll be on there for when I need them. Otherwise, I've already started seeing that some movies have not been available on streaming services for quite some time, and I've already got them on a list of titles to buy, so that way I can have them and watch them when I'm ready to watch them. The main one that I've looked for is the two Sinister movies. I think Sinister One was streaming on apps I don't have and I don't want to sign up for. I found the movie for I think it was $6. Sinister Two, I checked so many stores, I haven't found it, so I had to buy it off of Amazon. Luckily, it was still under $10. Um, and the person I bought it from says it's in like new condition. It's still used, it's still open. It's not a brand new copy, which is I'm fine with. It doesn't need to still be in the plastic or untouched because Blu-rays are very, very scratch resistant. So it's not like a DVD where you run the risk of it being scratched out of hell and maybe still watchable. And then I'm currently looking at The Barn and The Barn 2 because I really liked those movies when I did discover them and get a chance to watch them. They were exclusively on Tubi, even though they aren't Tubi funded and Tubi originals. But that was when I watched them, when I discovered them and watched them, that was the main place that I could find them. Now they're no longer on Tubi. They're no longer on any streaming services outside of that. Not even Shudder has them. Luckily, there are still copies around. They are pretty expensive though, just because they are. I guess they are very limited in quantity. So almost still about 25, $30 for per movie. Those movies are definitely worth it. Don't mind paying that much. I'm just gonna wait to time it for when I watch that. Also looking for Unfriended and Unfriended 2. I really like the first one. The second one I'm very iffy on, but my daughter has been jumping on this challenge a lot with me. Uh, Last time she would just kind of pick and choose. She did all of March when I did all the Marvel movies, and she would always ask me every day, like, "Hey, what movie you watching? What movie you watching?" Um, and if she didn't see it, so she wouldn't do it. But now since I'm doing horror movies, and she is also just like me, a horror fan. Uh, she's watched a little more when she has the chance to. If she doesn't have homework or stuff going on with friends or school. Uh, she has been joining me, so she is very interested in watching the Unfriended movies with me. I just got to find them. Sadly, it's not. Neither movie is streaming on any of the services that I have. And again, the ones that are streaming on, I don't want to get. So I found both movies on Amazon. Just have to wait and space them out to when I want to get them and see when she's ready to watch them, when she has time for them. Otherwise, still am making a list and adding a list. My wife has been a little bit on board with being a little helpful and suggesting certain movies to me. She may not watch them with me, but she's like, "Oh, I heard about this," and I think you could just add that to the list if you just can't think of a movie for the day. One of them was The Bye Bye Man, which I am familiar with that movie. I haven't seen it, but I do know it was not a very well received and didn't do well financially. But God bless her, she heard about it. She said it looked pretty good. Then she saw the reviews and said the reviews were complete trash. But I still told her I would still watch it just because horror movies are horror movies. You're not going to have consistently good horror movies, but you're also not going to have consistently terrible horror movies either. You're not going to have an abundance of terrible horror movies. Um, it depends on the viewer and how subjective you are to uh, what you're watching, how open-minded you are. And while The Bye Bye Man didn't pique my interest and it did come out, I'll still give it a watch just because you're going to have to take the good with the bad with any kind of fandom you're a part of. So I'll watch it, see how terrible it could be, see where the faults are. It's still a horror movie at the end of the day. It's there, and obviously it's on the streaming service because someone wants to watch it. Uh, Still getting recommendations too from the horror podcasts I've been listening to. The Horror Movie Club recently did, not recently, but within the past 2 weeks, released an episode on the Babadook, which I have heard a lot about and was always very curious about. So I gave that a watch the other day. But I also have other movies that I just kind of want to touch on that I've watched for the month, and some of them are really good. Some are kind of terrible, and one kind of grew on me a little more now that I understood it a little better. And then the other one just it earned more appreciation from me when it originally got. But I've watched Terror Train and Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day is the one that definitely got a lot more appreciation from me. I did see it in theaters, and it, I knew it was based on Groundhog Day, but to me, as a horror fan at that time, the execution of it was just very lighthearted for a movie that I was hoping would kind of be very serious, and it left me just not satisfied as a horror fan. My expectations were not met on it. Now watching it again, and now I knew what to expect, kind of knew where it was coming from. Uh, it's from the same company that produced Freaky, and I think it's from the same writers that probably produced Freaky as well. And I really liked Freaky, so that may have helped sway me a bit. But I did appreciate it a little more. Probably won't add it to the collection right away, but it's definitely now a movie I'll definitely consider rewatching. Um, The House by the Cemetery. Did talk about that in an earlier episode. All the Hell House LLC movies, 1, 2, 3, and Origins. Color Out of Space, definitely one that I was always curious about because heard a lot of good things. It was very cheap to buy on 4K and on regular Blu-ray. I just never pulled the trigger on it, and Shudder had it. Gave it a watch. Definitely not. I didn't have any expectations, and it still was not what I was expecting, but it was still really good, and I kind of would recommend it. As stated before in the previous episode where I did talk about it, I'm not very familiar with Lovecraftian horror. Uh, Now I'm kind of starting to understand a little more, or get my own understanding a little more of Lovecraftian horror after watching a few Lovecraft-based movies. So I'm now looking forward a little bit more to seeing some more Lovecraftian horror. I do plan on watching Lovecraft also, which is the anthology horror series based around him. just because that was always a favorite of mine. I don't know if I haven't bought it yet. Watch Talk to Me, which I was excited about. I went ahead and bought the movie before even watching it, and because it was on sale at Target on 4K. There was no like gamble on it, like like I usually do. It'd be like, oh, it's on sale for $5 or $7, or it's a $3 movie. I don't like it. It didn't waste much money. Like it's not a total loss on me. This one I heard many good things, and I'm like, it's on sale for $15 for 4K. I'll go ahead and buy it. I know I'm gonna love the movie, so I might as well just go ahead and own it in the best format I can find it in. Um, there's Someone Inside Your House, which is like a random find. That movie went pretty hard. I was not expecting all that it contained. But that was also another movie I would definitely recommend to people. The House that Dreaded Sundown was one that's always been on my list. The original, I saw the reboot, like sequel, that came out almost 10 years ago. Uh, and I thought it was just like a remake. It ended up being a sequel slash reboot. So it kind of threw me off, but I still liked it. I still liked the original once I saw it. Uh, Escape Room, I finally gave a chance to, after I thought it was just kind of like a mainstream horror, like something that was like, oh, we're going to capitalize on this big trend of escape rooms and make a horror movie because it'll be kind of cheap and hopefully we can get some money back on it. It was actually a pretty decent story, not gonna lie. The Roommate, another one that has been on my mind just because I watched it a long time ago, and it just randomly popped into my head. I'm like, I wouldn't mind watching this again. Luckily, I found it streaming on Tubi, and my wife got into it. My daughter got into it. The Shining, just because my wife was like, it's cold outside, let's watch The Shining. We're supposed to be getting like somewhat freezing temperatures with possible snow. Us, which is the movie that grew on me and got a little more appreciation. Um, Again, just like with Happy Death Day, seeing where knowing what to expect, seeing where it was coming from a different lens, from a lot of people talking about it, understanding the movie a lot more, and then watching it, and it's like this. This is actually a very well put together movie. I always thought that from the origin, from the first view. The Hands Across America still get me, still get to me. Um, I still don't get fully why it's there, but I understand it for the time that it was and the twist and everything else. Um, the, the, what it's supposed to imply, um, subtly, subconsciously, I get it. I just still feel that if you took that aspect of the movie out, it would still deliver and still be like a solid, even more of a solid movie. All the VHS movies, there are 6 entries. So VHS, VHS 2, VHS Viral, VHS 94, 99, and 85. Out of all 6 of them, 2 were not really letdowns. One was a very big letdown, and the other one was just kind of like a meh after the first one, which kind of most sequels are. But the 94, 99, 85 definitely did meet their hype and their expectations. That's all I can say about that. I don't really want to spoil a lot with the VHS movies, just because they cover a lot. It's an anthology series. There are a lot of individual stories. Uh, there's just the first trilogy kind of wanted to tell a overarching story, but still be self-contained. And they just with a series like with a format like that, it's very, very hard to do. So I can't really like hold it too much against them and criticize and critique them for that. They did try. It was just it didn't hit its mark, which is kind of to be expected. Especially when you don't have anything carrying over other than just the effects of the VHSs. Uh, this one has like a few titles and Anthropophagus, also sometimes titled The Grim Reaper. The artwork on it always had me intrigued. Reading reviews on Shudder saying that it was actually a pretty stupid movie, and the gore is there. There is no story, nothing about it actually hits. It's just a movie that was made to be a movie, be gory. They are not wrong. Just finally glad I got it off my list. It'd been on my to be watch list for about 5 years now. I just never got around to it. Watched The Mist and Underwater. The Mist, not really Lovecraftian, but Underwater, very Lovecraftian. Towards the end, um, I still had to look to see if some of these movies counted as horror, and Underwater was one of them. Where it's like, is this really horror? Uh, Luckily, it said it was, and another YouTube video was talking about how it is a Lovecraftian horror movie just because of some of the events that happened in the movie. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It qualifies. I will give it a watch. I've tried to watch that movie several times, and it really takes off right away. And so it bombards you with a lot of information. So it's not something that you could just watch casually as a first time viewer. So that was the main issue with me, is because I would put it on, but then I'd have to get up or take pause and go do other things and then try to come back to it. Like I'm already just my mind memory has been wiped. I kind of need to play catch up again. Like, wait, when did this happen? I don't remember when this happened. And I'm still within like the first 30 minutes of the movie. So just actually finding time to be like, look, I'm sitting down, I'm watching this. I'll let my wife, my kids know, like, hey, this movie takes off real fast. If y'all want to, they're going to be in the room. It's going to be playing. You know, try not to talk too much. Try not to like pull my attention away, just because a lot does happen with it after the first 5 minutes, and it just keeps going. It doesn't allow a breath for you to process the past events, and like some movies would, where it's like, oh, a lot happened. Okay, yes, this just did happen with this character. Okay, now this we got to worry about us. It wasn't kind of like that. It was just very, holy shit, keep moving forward. Holy shit, keep moving forward. Holy shit, keep moving forward, and never look back. And I could tell they were a little annoyed with me when I did tell them that they're going to be in the room as I'm watching it, to kind of just keep the conversations, the attention grabbing down to a very, very big, like, minimum. Um, and but once the movie did get going and they did see that I was right after 5 minutes, it just literally just takes off and doesn't stop. They understood. They were a lot more. They were very forgiving on that, but they got into it as well, and uh, luckily we all just kind of got through it. Otherwise, for the last few movies, because it's not officially in February, we still got a few more days left. But the last few movies that I have seen have been, again, like The Babadook, Slaughterhouse, which my wife pointed out to me last year because she saw it on Hulu and she said this looks stupid. But it is a horror movie. I was curious. It didn't disappoint. She thought it was going to be a movie trying to take itself seriously, and I'm like, no. With a title like Slaughterhouse and the premise of a killer sloth in a sorority house, there's nothing serious about this movie. It is dumb. It knows it's dumb, so it's going to be dumb in the best way possible, and it absolutely was. I I love that movie. If they come up with a physical release on that, I'm grabbing it as soon as I can. And then Body at Brighton Rock. We saw that on Max. It said it was horror. Everything else I was looking up said it was horror. It was a very, very different type of horror, but horror nonetheless. And me and the wife both liked it for what it was. It opened up with Dead Man's Party by Oingo Boingo. So right away I told my wife, I don't care how bad this movie may be, it's already a 5 star, 10 out of 10 just for that song. Just because if you know me, um, very few people know this about me, so I can't really say if you know me. But I do love Oingo Boingo. I'm not like the biggest fan on theirs, but I was exposed to them at a pretty pivotal age. So I at least know of them. I know a few songs besides like Weird Science, which is probably the one a lot of people around my age know. It's because we watched the movie Weird Science. But I did hear Dead Man's Party from them when I did discover them, and I was just like, oh, it's a fun song. And only up until maybe the past 15 years, it kind of got reminded and revived with me, and I always make sure I play it at least once every year on Halloween. It's like an unofficial Halloween anthem that's not a Halloween theme song. So to see it now kind of getting a little more use, a little more recognition, a lot more people being exposed to it and knowing that it exists. Whenever it does pop up in a show or a movie, it's like, no, the theme and how everything of this film or show or this episode is going to go automatically is going to click because it takes a very special person to pick the song out, and they picked it out for a reason because it is one of those types of songs. And so I was just like, yes, this movie's already a 5 star, 10 out of 10. And then crazily enough, like they put that at the beginning of the movie, but then after you watch the movie and you're like, it does fit in the craziest way. Like they made sure that this was the right song for the movie and that it could deliver on what the movie was going to be presenting and dealing with. And it did. And I appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, that's been the month thus far. I know this is a little bit shorter one, just because we're barely breaking 40 minutes. But just wanted to give a small update on everything. I may again still do these. I might not do them week by week with the movie updates. I'll probably just stick to shorter episodes, maybe at the end of the month or close to the end of the month, depending upon when the Tuesday falls and when I record this. But I do appreciate again y'all giving me a listen if y'all made it this far into the episode. Don't forget to just also follow me on my journey on Instagram if you want. Now that we have Patreon going, again, you can just um, do a tiny, small donation. I'm not asking for a lot. If you want to, um, if you play this in the car, your friends like it, your mom likes it, your dog likes it. Hey, feel free to, hit that button to subscribe. Make sure you get these episode notifications weekly. You could also check out all the other places or tell your friends to check out all the other places if they don't want to get Spotify, because I know some people are very reserved on that. I work with a few people that just don't want to download Spotify for any reason. So yeah, Google, YouTube, iHeartRadio, if they want to just give me a listen, or if that's just where they want to kind of hear me every now and then, they don't gotta subscribe completely if they don't want to. I'm not gonna force anyone to do that. But I am back home already. Thank you all. This has been a very, very awesome first full month, I would say, calendar month for doing the show. It has been fun, and I'm glad to have started this year. I'm glad to have you all, few listeners, be a part of it because it's all greatly appreciated. And hopefully, this month has been very, very awesome for all of y'all, and I hope that next month would be just the same. Otherwise, the year is still young. Don't let it get you down. You still have 11 more months that everything can go straight up from there. It's not always going to be up, it's going to have its downs too, but you get the point. Hopefully, most of it is going to be good. You got to take the bad with the good. There's ebbs and flows, but hopefully, it's more good. Hopefully, you come out in December a lot better than when you started it or where you came from at the end of last year. So thank you all. I will see you all next week for the pre-recorded episode that I just put up. And until then, thank you for joining me on this drive. It has been a lovely one. Take care of yourselves. Love you. And I will see you on the next ride.